Now, again, I believe that Bitcoin is going to go hit this trend line. I think you'll complete a divergence here on the RSI. I'm looking for the same divergence, type of divergence, Class A, to finish on the awesome oscillator, Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin futures and the IBIT ETF, as I've been talking about. Crossing out the 50, I think we're going to go slightly above this level, and I think you're going to peak here probably between 114, 116,000, complete this divergence, and then I think you get the bigger pullback towards the 200, towards the 100 period moving average, getting the right shoulder of this massive inverse head and shoulders pattern. I think that we will see the MACD do the same thing. I think you'll see the MACD turn up here, which it's doing already. The MACD is getting the bullish cross, but I think you'll get a lower high, and then I think you'll begin to turn down. Now, the bar 8 with the sequence counts, next week will be bar 9. So again, you can see a peak this week, next week, or after we get the 9 bar. So I think we're going to reach this level, and then I think we're going to see the rally stall. But I think eventually you're going to complete this divergence, and then you're going to turn down. In order for that to happen, my signals have to stall in this area, and then we have to see my signals turn back to bearish. I think that's likely going to be the case. This is what I think is likely happening. I think that here in the 4-hour time frame on Bitcoin, that we've completed a wave 4. We're now in this 5th wave of wave 1. I think you're going to finish it here, and I think we're going to pop a little bit higher, complete the divergences I'm talking about, and then I think you pull back and you get your ABC move, takes us back below 100,000 on Bitcoin. I think that will be the wave 2. I think that'll be the right shoulder. Here in the 4-hour time frame, we've reached an extreme. I think you're going to end up forming this divergence here as we go into Fed meeting, just before the Fed meeting, with the Fed meeting, whatever, however it plays out. I think you're going to end up popping higher, and I think you're going to finish this wave 1. I think we'll be above this area, and like I said, this is 112,000 right here. We can go to 114, 15, 16,000. We can come up into this area and then end up getting a bigger pullback. We saw the 50 cross below the 200. The 50 is now back above it. I told you it could be just like right here, where you saw the 50, it got back above the 200, and then it dropped right back below it, and we ended up going lower. Here, we dropped below the 200, the opposite, and we got back above it, and that could take us just above this area right here. Here, we went to a new, slightly lower low. If I just zoom out here a little bit, you can see the previous low. We just went slightly lower, undercutting that level. We had a low here at 76,000, I believe, and we went down to 74,000, a couple thousand lower. Here we hit 112,000. We can go up to 114, 15, 16, something like that, and then turn back down. I think that is likely going to be the case. Completing a little divergence right here, very similar to the divergences that have marked these other pullbacks. I think that's very likely. The MACD is rolling over. We had that bullish divergence down at the bottom. I talked about that. The MACD is rolling over. You could see a divergence develop right here. But notice you got this larger divergence going on, these series of lower highs on the MACD here in the 4-hour time frame. So again, I think you're going to end up getting that bigger pullback, and I think you'll get another, you're getting another false breakout, as I should say, above the January high right now. And I think we'll have another false breakout above this high at 112,000. I think we'll move slightly above it and again stall out. I think that again, likely in a 5-leg push higher right here. This could possibly be a 4, and we're about to get a 5. We could still be in the wave 3. This could still be, you know, a 1 and a 2, and this still could be an extended 3, and then you get 4 and 5, and that could take us a little bit higher. So again, Elliott wave is speculation, but I do think we are going to reach a new all-time high, but then I think we're going to top. Again, parameter has firmed up and turning back up. It'll likely set up a lower high and a divergence with the previous peak. Now, my last few updates, I've been talking about the sequence counts and how we're getting the 13 count. I told you it was coming, it came, and I told you, again, we'd likely get it and then still go higher. Still believe that. Probably going to go about 114 to 116,000 and then begin a bigger pullback towards the 200 period moving average, a black line you see right there. will likely give us a right shoulder for this large inverse head and shoulders that I'm talking about. I talk about and predict things before they happen. Once we see this happen, the Moon Boys talking about this pattern are too busy yelling, "It's a breakout! It's a breakout!" If it fails, after we get the sell-off, then they'll talking about this pattern. I predict things before they happen. The Moon Boys, they predict things after they happen. We talked about the 13 count and how, again, it's likely going to produce a top. The 13 count here marked the day of the top. The 9 count here the day after the top in January. The 13 count was the December top. Here we got the 13 count, and we moved a little bit lower, getting the April 7th bottom. This count will probably be very similar to that, where we get the 13 count, but we end up going higher up towards this trend line. I believe these highs are pointing to the next high. I think you're going to hit that. Currently, that's around the 114,000 area. Maybe we overthrow it a little bit, 115 or 116,000. You could go all the way up to the 78.6 Fibonacci extension at 121,000. I don't think we reach that level. I don't think we go much higher than 114 to 115, 16, maybe 117. It is possible we go all the way up to 121,000 to the 78.6 extension. Talked about this in recent videos. Now here on Wednesday, Bitcoin is down 0.41% at the moment. It was down lower. We're trying to recover. We're down just a little bit. The 13 count on Sunday, and then we had the rally on Monday, and then we got a doji on Tuesday, and here we're down just a little bit. I think we hit this trend line. Now, this dotted red line is the January high, and over here, we moved above it, and I told you, hit one of these two trend lines. Well, we hit this trend line right here. This is excluding the shadow. It was at the 111,000 area. We overthrew it, and we hit 112,000. And I told you, again, we're going to end up larger pullback. We talked about a possible divergence developing. We ended up getting a pullback and then went to a higher high, which is what I think is going on with the RSI and on the Awesome Oscillator. We talked about this in great length in detail. It's now playing out. But again, over here, the dotted red line, the January high, we broke above it. The Moon Boys and the herd, it's a breakout! And again, we ended up doing what we usually do with the Bitcoin conference, and that is that we've stalled around that area, selling off and going back to the 50 period. We formed a bull flag. Again, that's now broken out. We got the 13 count, so we know price is getting tired, but it's probably going to be something like this where we get the 13 count, but we ended up going lower. Here we got the 13 count. Again, we're going to likely go higher or maybe even overthrow my trend line just a little bit, but I think you're going to stall probably around the trend line, currently around 114,000, maybe 115, 16,000, 17,000, all the way up to 121,000. I think that the lower end of the range is more likely, but don't want to rule out trying to reach the 78.6 Fibonacci extension if we continue. Get a big topping tail or something. But I think you could still stall in this area. They're at the trend line or getting an overthrow. So that's what I think is going to happen. I do believe the rally is going to come to a conclusion. I think the 13 count is suggesting that. We're also getting warning signs in the weekly time frame. Now that is in the weekly time frame. We're up to bar 8. The NASDAQ is up to bar 8. The NASDAQ Composite, the NASDAQ 100, both of them are up to bar 8. So is Nvidia. So is Bitcoin right here. S&P, the Russell, the Dow, they're up to bar 7 in the weekly time frame. They could peak with bar 8. That's why I'm saying Bitcoin could peak surrounding this bar. Now over here we got the 9 count. We ended up going a little higher before the bigger sell-off. Sometimes you get the bars with 8 or 9 and you turn immediately. Other times you go a little higher. Sometimes they don't quite complete. Here we got up to bar 8 and it didn't finish. We bottomed at 74,000. That was it. And we got the reversal bar and we bounced off the 50-week moving average here, the green line. I think you're going to form this massive inverse head and shoulders pattern. The bull flag that we broke out of, it's going to take us up to 114 to 116,000, 117,000, something like that. Then I think you're going to get this bigger pullback as we go into July. At some point in July, I think Bitcoin will bottom out and finish the right shoulder, and then I think that will be wave 2. I think it's completing wave 1. But you're up to bar 8. This is telling you that prices are getting tired. The herd, I'm seeing all over the internet social media, Bitcoin broke out right here, but it's about to break out here. People are just talking about the breakout. They weren't talking about the breakout when I talked about the breakout of the downward trend line. Breakout above overhead resistance for our double bottom pattern. Our double bottom pattern, I drew that a little bit low right there, the double bottom confirmation line. That's the breakout, the downward trend line. My signal's correctly called the day of the bottom. Herd absolutely loves buying tops and panic selling at bottoms. I mean, it is their hobby. So again, we're breaking out above this high previously, May 22nd, and now we're coming back above it again this week and breaking out to above that dotted red line, above the January high. We're likely going to complete a divergence and stall in this area or just a little bit above it. So this 8 bar is warning. We're likely going to see prices stall soon. Rally is going to come to a conclusion and we'll get a pullback, and then we'll see another opportunity. The bears will say, oh, here comes the crash. Down like over here, they were telling us the crash was about to happen. We were bottoming. The rally was over. Alt season was canceled. It was over. Their hopes were dashed. Now, back to bullish. They get very bearish at bottoms, very bullish at tops. A lot of great indicators, but my best indicator, absolutely best indicator, is the herd. When I called the bottom, the day of the bottom, and predicted this rally, so far has been 50%. The bears were laughing at me. The herd, tell me, no way, the bears are right. We're going to crash. It's over. All season's canceled. And I got so much negative feedback, but I was right. Now that I'm warning, hey, we're going to go higher, but then we're going to top and get a bigger pullback. I got the same thing going on, just in the opposite. The herd is now bullish. We're breaking out, talk about popping higher to this trend line, which I still think I'm still bullish. I still think we're going higher, going to make a new high, but then I think we're going to pull back. Saying that, the herd is now telling me again, no way that's going to happen. You want my best indicator? The best indicator is the herd. Got to be getting close to a top because getting complacent again. So I think, again, next week we'll get the 9 count in all likelihood. And again, the 8 bar, the 9 bar could be the high of the count. You could see it before the weekends. You could see it on into next week. Sometimes it goes just beyond that. I said, like right here, one more bar, sometimes a couple of bars. We had over here. You got some serious resistance in here. Fibonacci extension levels are in here. So I think you're going to end up stalling in this area. Like I said, I believe these highs are likely pointing to the next high. So you got the bar 8 here, the bar 13. Telling you that, again, prices are getting tired. The rally is getting extended. 8 of a 9 on Bitcoin. Next week we get the 9 as long as we're above the bar from 4 weeks ago. If it gets canceled out, you're not above the bar from 4 weeks ago. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got to be above this area right here, which is the January high. You got to be above that January high area to complete the 9 count. If not, if it doesn't complete and we start to reverse that week with the Fed, then it could just be up to bar 8 like what we had over here. So just be aware that this count is in play here and that we are up to bar 8. Just be aware of the bar 8 for Bitcoin. NVIDIA's got the same bar. We're on bar 8. We've had these 9 counts previously formed. This one marked the top right here. Pulled back, went slightly above that, but we ended up seeing that 9 count produce a sharp decline. This 9 count, bar 8 was the high of the count, and it also produced a sell-off. This one's likely going to do it as well. Here in the weekly time frame is up to bar 8. Bitcoin's up to bar 8. The NASDAQ 100 in the weekly time frame up to bar 8. It's likely going to reach this trend line, and again, you got a shot at an inverse head and shoulders, just like Bitcoin. It was a 9 count that marked the bottom. The 8 bar was the low of the count. So here on the NASDAQ 100, we're up to bar 8, just like Bitcoin, just like NVIDIA. So again, next week with the Fed meeting, we'll be getting bar 9. Does that produce a top? Signals have turned back to bullish as expected. I don't think it will last much longer. I do think we'll go make a new high and it will be over. We're seeing signals turn right back to bullish. I think that's likely suggesting a topping process. I talked about the possibility of Bitcoin already peaking here and now getting a lower high, and then we get one more push down. That's still possible. I think it's less likely, but it's still possible. Signals all start turning back to bearish. But again, saw some bearish signals, bounced off the 50, signals turning back to bullish. We're likely going to go make a new high. We came down to the 50-period moving average, a green line right there. We saw reversal happen. That's that little black bar you see right there. That's a reversal bar confirmed with bars turning back to blue. So again, I still think you got a good shot at making a new high. I think you'll get a bigger pullback. We bounced off horizontal support here and our 50-period moving average. Did a great job at marking the very day of the bottom. There was no top over here, so my guess is we don't have it yet. Been premature warning of that, like we got back at the December high. We got a topping signal a little bit early warning of that. Possible, more likely we move to a new high and see the topping signals and the reversal eventually happen once we make new highs. But we saw momentum and then trend signals all begin to turn bearish. Mixed for a little while, but now they're all back to bullish. So again, my guess is you're going to form that divergence for getting a bigger pullback. Saw signals turn bearish, but then we bounced off the 50-period moving average. We've seen signals all begin to turn back to bullish. So again, either we're going to get a lower high and see signals revert back to bearish, or a higher high, which I think is more likely. I think Bitcoin will likely complete a 9 count next week. Please support the channel with a link directly below that allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, let me know that by supporting the channel today. If you take a moment to do that, I would really appreciate it. Most channels make their money by sponsors. I choose not to do that. If you like my indicators, if you like my charts, just take a moment and do what you can to help out and support the channel. It takes a lot of time and effort to do this. I'm just showing you things I look at every single day. That information, then support the channel today. Thank you for your consideration for that. At 112,000, we had the warning of a pullback or reversal. We got a pullback. We bounced off the purple line, taking out the orange line. We got back above the orange line after bouncing off the purple line. The downtrend, the orange and purple line acted as resistance over and over again. Uptrend is acting as support. Here we broke it, and now the purple line is support. We top, we'll drop back below the orange line, and you'll probably see a sell signal here triggered when we're topping near the top. We got the warning sign the day of the bottom. You got the warning sign here at the top, and the day before the top over here. You got the warning sign just before the top and the day of the top over here. You'll probably see it over here. Don't have that yet, so again, I still think we likely move to a new high. Signals tell me when there's going to be a change momentum, and sometimes that shift in momentum leads to reversals like down here at the bottom or over here at these tops. I want to continue to point out that my signals were predicting that we were going to turn back up after this sell-off. Person after person told me, no, that's not going to happen. The bears, unless it was over here. This is Bitcoin futures right here. Again, the same stuff. The same stuff they told us back at the bottom when I told you we were going to bottom at 74,000. What happened? Oh, we bottomed at 74,000. How did I know that? It was major support, horizontal support, the 50-period moving average, Bitcoin's average price. I talked about this all back at the bottom. We heard the same thing here. Again, the signals were proven correct yet again. I told you we were going to see green bars, and you're going to end up forming this divergence, likely going into the Fed meeting or so, just before or after the Fed meeting. This is likely going to complete. I talked about it possibly trying to complete this week, but told you we can get several more green bars here. So I think it takes time, and we can see that drag out into next week with the Fed meeting or shortly thereafter. So again, my signals continue to point to a new all-time high, but then we're going to end up seeing prices stall and pull back once this divergence is complete. The signals continue to nail it. And the same thing for the IBIT ETF. For Bitcoin, again, we're seeing the green bars. We're likely going to go make a new high, but then this divergence will produce a short-term top and end up giving us a bigger pullback. Again, we could see several more green bars appear here on into the Fed next week. or just beyond that, but I think a top is coming. I do think I'm still bullish. I still think we're going to go higher. We're going to get that bigger pullback and dash hopes, shake out the weak hands. The count is labeled differently on the program I just showed you. It's a different charting program. Here is the count in the daily time frame. Again, I think we had wave 3 over here. I think you got wave 4 at this low in April. We've rallied back up. I think you're going to stall at this trend line. I think you've got your inverse head and shoulders pattern going on here. I think we're going to go up here, make a slightly higher high, and then I think you're going to get a bigger pullback to the 200. And then the next move is going to be powerful. It's going to be a spectacular move. The inverse head and shoulders measures. We reach 114,000, it would measure to the 155, 156,000 area. If we go a little higher, then it would measure a little bit higher, of 150,000. Now, I think this is what's likely going to happen. We're going to complete this wave 1, and I think we have this 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we're now getting 5, and then I think you're going to get that wave 2, completing wave 1, and then getting the wave 2. Eventually, I think this whole thing, this from wave 4, I think we get the black wave 5 right here. I think this whole thing unfolds in these 5 waves higher, and then I think Bitcoin's going to top near the trend line I've been talking about, and I think that'll happen later in the year, probably as we go into the late summer, or more likely on into the fall somewhere. Here it is in the weekly time frame. Again, a number is not my target. This trend line is my target. A date is not my target, but I'm just telling you, if we continue the momentum, we pull back, we continue the momentum, you could reach this level by late summer or on into the fall somewhere, certainly possible. But again, I don't know the future. I'm a trader. I look at support and resistance, and this is resistance, this trend line. I think we'll hit it. That'd be sooner than later. If it's sooner rather than later, Bitcoin will be at lower levels. If we take longer to reach it, Bitcoin will be at higher levels. Bitcoin ends up reaching this could take us, our minimum target for the inverse head and shoulders is the 156,000 area. Easily go to the 175,000, 185, 190,000 easily. But you can clearly see what I'm looking for here, and that is a 5-leg push to unfold to take us to this trend line. I think Bitcoin will complete a cycle top. At the 2022 low, we completed this blue count, this 4. I think that we got 5 waves, 5 larger waves with the red count 1, 2. I think this whole thing was 3. I think we have 4 here completing, and then I think this whole thing is 5. Being the red count, and the whole thing is the blue 5. You could see marked right there. So that's what I think is going on. I do think we'll pull back for the wave 2, but then I think we'll end up going much higher. I'm very bullish right now. I think we'll pop higher, pull back, but while I'm bullish longer term right here, get up here, I'm going to get very, very bearish.